Welcome to the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. My name is Frank. I'm the host of the show. This is a movie podcast where I discuss and review movies new and old. You can get the podcast wherever you get your podcast now. That includes Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, and Amazon Music. You can also download episodes of the podcast from the show's website. That website is letmebendyourear.com. Again, welcome to the show. I'm going to be reviewing A Hero, the 2021 film directed by Asghar Farhadi. So we'll get into the review in a couple of minutes, just some housekeeping to get out of the way. Again, if you want to see video versions of this podcast, you can see them on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to that channel there at Let Me Bend Your Ear Podcast. You can also subscribe to the show or like the show's Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Let Me Bend Your Ear. The show also broadcasts live on Twitch. That handle is at Bend Your Ear Pod. That is also the handle for Twitter where the show broadcasts as well, at Bend Your Ear Pod. And that is also the handle for Instagram. If I could ask you to do two things if you're a regular listener to the program, if you can rate and review the show on whatever podcasting app you listen to, 5 stars would be great. The more ratings and review the show gets, the higher in search results it'll go when people are searching or seeking out a new movie podcast. And the other thing I would ask you to do is if you see my post on episodes on social media, specifically on Twitter, if you can retweet and like those, that'd be great as well. The biggest tool that I have to grow the show as an independent podcaster is through word of mouth. So you can do that. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's get right into the review. I'm going to be reviewing A Hero. So this is a 2021 film directed by Asghar Farhadi. There was prevailing wisdom that this movie was going to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Foreign Film. It did not, or Best Picture, and it did not, I believe. I didn't double check the nominations, but there was some disappointment out there about that. And Asghar Farhadi, this is the first of his movies that I've seen. I know I think he's won 2 Oscars for Best Foreign Film, the Best Director. And he's a critically acclaimed director from Iran. And I haven't seen any of his other films. This is the first one I was able to see, or I've been able to see. I know the critics have been pretty universal in its praise. I'll give my thoughts on the movie in a moment, once I talk about the plot and then give my review. I was able to see it. It's streaming right now on Amazon Prime. So if you have that, you can watch the movie at your leisure. So the plot of this film is very interesting. So, like I said, I'm not going to usually say the cast, but I hate butchering people's names, so I'm not really going to get into that. So I'm just going to get to more of what the characters in the movie do and kind of how the plot moves. So in this movie, you have a gentleman that is released from prison on a 2-day leave. So it was interesting because he's actually, and I didn't think this existed anymore, he's in debtor's prison. So the main character in this film is released on a 2-day leave. He actually owes his brother-in-law a significant sum of money and hasn't been able to pay him back, and as a result has been jailed. So he gets a 2-day leave to get out. So as the movie opens, so he has a son. He is divorced. He has an ex-wife that's about to get remarried, and he has a girlfriend. So when he gets out, he goes to see his girlfriend, goes to see his family, and his girlfriend happens upon a purse with gold coins in it. So they attempt to sell it and realize that the gold coins aren't worth as much as he thought. So the main character concocts this plot to say that he found the purse and have his girlfriend play the owner of the gold so he can, seem like he's doing something charitable and magnanimous. So in doing so, he does that. He executes the plan, and the local media gets a hold of the story. So what he does is he manipulates that as well. So he has he has himself get contacted while he's in jail, or the jail gets contacted. So then it gets leaked out to the media. So this gentleman becomes a media sensation for being, for even though he's in jail for owing money. He did the right thing, and he returned it to its own rightful owners. So what ends up, the truth is, what happens is his girlfriend found the purse. So he lies and says he found it. So they look for the owners of the purse. So the owner of the purse does show up and to reclaim it. But there's a series of things that happen. And as he becomes a celebrity, people start to question, which is one of the good themes of the movie. So, they set you up to bring you down. It's funny when I see this title of Hero. There's a movie directed by Stephen Frears that had Andy Garcia, Chevy Chase, and Gina Davis called Hero, and Dustin Hoffman, which it kind of reminded me of. It was interesting because that particular movie I'll review another time. Very good movie, where Dustin Hoffman's character is kind of a seedy character, and he ends up doing something heroic and becomes a media darling. But what happens is, or he doesn't become a media darling. They put Andy Garcia as the person that actually saved people's lives because he's a good-looking guy and he looks good on TV, and it's kind of a commentary on what we want our heroes to be and what our heroes should look like, and if they don't fit a particular mold, then it's not as palatable. But this movie's kind of similar to that. He becomes kind of a media sensation, and everybody's very proud of him. One of my favorite scenes in the movie, though, and it's funny because that scene actually is going to get to my criticisms of the movie, which I'll get to in a moment. But one of my favorite scenes in the movie is there's a meeting where a charitable organization is kind of organizing a fund to raise money for him to pay his debt. So a lot of people put in money in the kitty and stuff like that. So it ends up that he raises a good sum of money, but not the entire debt. So his brother-in-law, who he owes the money to, has this great diatribe in the middle of the movie where he just basically rips the entire process. One, he doesn't believe the story that the main character has put out there, that he had found it and was going to turn it in. He thinks it's bogus, and he proceeds to give the whole history of what happened and how the reason he's in jail is because the guy's a deadbeat and he had to put up, money of his own. He had to put up his daughter's dowry to repay the debt because the money was borrowed from a loan shark and the main character never paid it back. So he got stuck with that debt and he had to pay it and put himself financially in bad shape. So he rants and raves about this, but eventually, and it's a great scene. It's probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And the actor that plays the brother-in-law is really good. But he ends up acquiescing because of the main character's little boy. And his little boy has a speech impediment or a stutter, which comes into play later in the movie. But the brother-in-law has compassion for him, and he goes, "All right, I'll allow him to be released early because of that." But he's angry about it. So as the film progresses, he's trying to figure out how to get out. He may have an opportunity to get a job, but the job is put on hold because they're starting to question the validity of his story. So word from the jail kind of gets out, or there's rumors getting out. So, he was going to have a job to be able to pay back the debt once he's released to finish paying off the debt. But with the rumors coming out, the company that was going to hire him pauses and says, we're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. And so, of course, as that happens, when you're not telling the truth, things start to come out and things start to come into the light. And that's the main plot of a Hero. And like I said, the acting's very good. I think the themes of the movie are good. I think I understand why a lot of these critics really love this movie because it's one of those movies where I think it portrays people in the gray areas of life. What would you do if you had a debt? What would you do? Situational ethics is probably kind of the word I'm thinking of. And how do we judge someone in what they do, depending on the things that happen. Now, my issue with the movie, and this is a big one, this is really what hurts my review of it, giving it a full-throated positive review. So here's my thing, and maybe that's something that a lot of the critics liked. I think your enjoyment of this movie really hinges on how likable or unlikable you find the main character. Now, Asghar Farhadi, the director, wrote the screenplay. Maybe his intention was to make the character not likable, to make him complicated, to make him, make you have mixed feelings about it. So maybe that was his intention. But the thing for me was, he didn't commit a murder. He's not a criminal in the sense. He's not a bad person in that sense. But for me, from my perspective, it just, and I don't know if it's the actor's portrayal, he just seemed like a schlub to me. And he was just kind of, as the things were happening around him, he was just kind of there. He was just like a vessel to basically go, I had bad luck. I couldn't pay him back. He doesn't seem like there's a sense of urgency about his situation other than the fact that he wants to stay out of jail. And for me, I think we've all known people in our lives, whether it's friends, family, you hear from other people about people that are deadbeats. And what I mean by that is they take advantage of other people financially and then don't meet their obligations. And the thing for me is, everybody has struggles in their life, and everybody at some point, unless you're super rich, has probably been in financial, binds, including myself included. So what really bothered me about his character in this movie was that it just really seemed like he just didn't, I don't want to say didn't care, but it just, the portrayal just made it seem like he was just like, oh, it was a real poor is woe is me attitude when everybody around him was trying to help him, whether it was his, brother-in-law who gave him the loan to begin with. In the movie, he ends up staying with his sister, his other sister, and her husband, who's trying to help them. And it just seemed like everyone's trying to help this guy, and this guy's not helping himself. Now, maybe I'm reading that wrong, but it really marred my enjoyment of it because his character actually irritated me. And like I said, the great scene in the middle of the movie when the brother-in-law who he owes the debt to went off, I totally was on his side. I'm like, yeah, of course this guy's pissed off. Of course this guy is he's exasperated at the fact that this guy's getting all this attention for the supposed good deed when he's a deadbeat. And I totally related to the brother-in-law. And maybe that's the intention. And maybe that's the complicated ethics that the director is trying to portray and making it not simple, and it's heavy themes and all of that I give him credit for. But unfortunately for me, the main character is got to be someone that it's somewhat redeemable to me or likable, and he just didn't. It just as the movie was progressing, I just got more and more annoyed with his character because I never saw at a point in the movie where he was reflective at any point about the debt and about the impact of that debt that he owed impacted his friends and family. And it's a pretty serious situation. Like, obviously in this culture, and I'm not an expert on the Iranian culture, but just watching it through the prism of this movie, it's, there's a family's honor at stake when you don't pay your debts. Like, obviously there's debtor's prison. So obviously it's a serious situation when you don't meet your financial obligations there, that to the point where you end up in jail. So I never felt that the main character understood the seriousness of his situation and the impact it was having on others. And in fact, it was the opposite. The only time he was emotional or kind of engaged, to me anyway, was when he was trying to find a way to stay out of jail. It wasn't, oh, I owe this money, I want to pay this debt back. I really put my brother-in-law in a bind. It was really more, I just don't want to go back to jail. And it's explicitly laid out in dialogue from the main character throughout the movie. I don't want to go back to jail. I can't go back to jail. I can't go back to jail. And instead of, how do I make this right? I mean, I don't want to go back to jail, but how do I make this right? I'm in jail because of my own doing. So, like I said, the main character in this film and just his, like I said, in my opinion, his just nonchalant attitude regarding the impact of his debt is on other people just really bothered me. Like, it rubbed me the wrong way. And as the movie progressed, it just really did. Now, as far as the acting's great all the way around. Again, I don't know if I blame the actor, the main character. I don't think it's an acting issue. I mean, obviously the script called for him to do this. I think he was doing what the director said. So I don't think it's an issue of acting. He seems like a likable actor. The actors around him were fabulous. Like I said, the brother-in-law was great. His girlfriend was really good. His little boy was good. So the characters were great. And like I said, it's great to see a film. I haven't really seen a lot of foreign films in the last few years, so it was nice to kind of see a different film, see a film from Iran, and see a film from this director who's critically acclaimed. And like I said, the themes of the movie and the subject matter, I can see why it was critically acclaimed. And there were some good things about it. I just don't think I enjoyed it as much as a lot of the critics. I know it was pretty much universally praised. But like I said, the going back to the main character, it really marred my enjoyment of the movie. It was really tough to have any kind of empathy or sympathy for the main character when he really didn't have any empathy or sympathy or take the weight of his debt, the impact, like I said, that it had on his family and friends. So that really was something that marred my enjoyment of the film. So I'm going to go ahead and give A Hero, directed by Asghar Farhadi. I'm going to give it 3 Van Goghs out of 5. So again, on my scale, it's a movie that I can't give a wholehearted recommendation to. It's a movie that I would not watch again for the reasons I've already stated. Like I said, I do think there are some good performances in there. I just think that just the lead character really just destroyed it for me, and unfortunately, really decreased my enjoyment of the film. But like I said, I know it's critically acclaimed. If you are a fan of Asghar Farhadi, I'm sure you'll really love the film. Like I said, this is the first of his movies that I've seen, and I will check out his other work. I know there's some other films that have been universally acclaimed as well. Just unfortunately, like I said, this one was really marred for me by the lead character. So that's my review on that. So, A Hero, directed by Asghar Farhadi. Again, I'm going to give it 3 Van Goghs out of 5. Again, you're listening and or watching the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. My name is Frank. I'm the host of the show. This is a movie podcast where I discuss and review movies new and old. You can email the show at bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. And you can listen to the show again wherever you get your podcast. Please rate and review wherever you listen to the podcast. I'd appreciate it. You can download all episodes from the website at any time. That website is letmebendyourear.com. And again, I would ask you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is Let Me Bend Your Ear Podcast. The Facebook page for the show is facebook.com/Let Me Bend Your Ear. The Instagram is at Bend Your Ear Pod. That is also the handle for Twitter and the handle for Twitch as well. So again, I hope you enjoyed that review of A Hero. Again, 3 Van Goghs out of 5. And again, feel free to email the show, bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. And I will see you again real soon with another review. I hope everybody has a fantastic